Welcome back to Man, Myth, or Legend. For Chapter 4, I'm going to focus on Denzel Washington. Here is a guy that has accomplished so much in his career. Stay with me and we'll delve into Mr. Washington's life and career. There may be some things that you may not know. I'll talk about his upcoming projects as well as reflect on his movies from the past. Maybe you'll find a gem that you missed. Thank you for joining me for this video. Please click on the subscribe button to join me for each chapter of this series. If you like what you're seeing, hit the like icon. He has won 2 Academy Awards and has been nominated for 8 others. 2 Golden Globes and nominated for 8 others, a SAG Award and nominated for 7 more, and a Tony Award. He was honored with the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award and the AFI Achievement Award. In 2020, the New York Times named him the greatest actor of the 21st century. Now that's recognition from your peers. Denzel began his career in off-Broadway productions. He first came to prominence in the NBC series St. Elsewhere. His film acting debut was in 1981 in the comedy Carbon Copy. He co-starred with Susan St. James and Jack Warden. He played the long-lost son Roger of a white successful businessman. The father Walter had a relationship with his mother a long time ago, and he is the result. Walter was forced to end the relationship to advance in his career. He wants to make it up to Roger for not being there by having him move in with him and his wife. The result is getting kicked out of his house, losing his job, cars, and credit cards. This was a great starting point for Denzel. From 1984 through 1988, he was in 4 dramatic films. A Soldier's Story with Howard Robbins Jr., Power with Richard Gere, Julie Christie, Gene Hackman, and Kate Capshaw, Cry Freedom with Kevin Kline, and For Queen and Country. Denzel's next film was in the title role of The Mighty Quinn. Mimi Rogers and Robert Townsend co-starred. It was a mystery comedy thriller film. So, in other words, a mix of Denzel's talents in one movie. Quinn is the chief of police of a small U.S. territory in the Caribbean. He tries to help his best friend Mobby after he becomes a murder suspect of a millionaire owner of a luxury resort hotel. He conducts an investigation to find the truth. What he does find is connected to the U.S. president and CIA. This was a great movie, and one you need to see if you haven't yet. In the same year, Denzel co-starred with Matthew Broderick and Morgan Freeman in Glory. Mr. Washington won his first Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his role as Private Silas Tripp. Tripp is a vocal member of the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, one of the first all-black regiments in the Union Army. Tripp deserts and is caught. His punishment is to be flogged in front of the regiment. The order is rescinded when it is revealed that he left to find proper shoes because the men are being denied those supplies. Denzel definitely deserved the Oscar for this role. His next few films continue to show his acting abilities in both comedies and dramas. In the comedy Heart Condition, he plays a lawyer and co-stars with Bob Hoskins. Mo Better Blues is a 1990 musical comedy drama in which Denzel co-stars with Wesley Snipes, Spike Lee, and John Turturro. He plays a jazz trumpet player. And in Mississippi Masala, a 1991 romantic drama. His first opportunity to play in an action crime thriller was in the film Ricochet. The cast included John Lithgow, Ice-T, Kevin Pollak, and Lindsay Wagner. The story is about Nick Stiles, played by Denzel. In 1981, he is a rookie police officer and law student. Stiles and his partner encounter hitman Earl Thomas Blake. An armed standoff ensues when Blake takes a hostage after killing several drug dealers. After stripping his equipment and uniform off, Stiles uses a gun hidden in his athletic supporter. He shoots Blake in the knee and subdues him. 8 years later, Stiles has become an assistant district attorney. Blake escapes prison and kills a city councilman who works with Stiles and frames him for embezzling city funds. Stiles is abducted and held hostage in an abandoned swimming pool for several days. He is injected with heroin and cocaine. Blake hires a prostitute to have sex with Stiles. She ignores the drugged-up Stiles' objections and rapes him while Blake records the incident. As you can see, Blake is setting him up to destroy his life. This was a great action movie for Denzel. It is another one that I would recommend you check out. In 1992, Denzel had the opportunity to play the title character in the epic biographical drama Malcolm X. His co-stars include Angela Bassett, Delroy Lindo, and Spike Lee. There were cameos from Reverend Al Sharpton and Nelson Mandela. The film is based largely on Alex Haley's 1965 book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. Haley collaborated with Malcolm X on the book beginning in 1963 and completed it after his death. The film dramatizes key events in his life, his criminal career and incarceration, his conversion to Islam, his ministry, and his later falling out with the organization, his marriage to Betty X, his pilgrimage to Mecca and reevaluation of his views of whites, and his assassination. Defining childhood events, including his father's death, his mother's mental illness, and his experience with racism are dramatized in flashbacks. Denzel was nominated for an Academy Award for his role. He was in 3 films in 1993. The romantic comedy Much Ado About Nothing with Kenneth Branagh, Michael Keaton, Keanu Reeves, Emma Thompson, and Kate Beckinsale. The legal thriller based on the John Grisham novel The Pelican Brief. He co-starred with Julia Roberts, Sam Shepard, John Hurd, Robert Culp, Stanley Tucci, and John Lithgow. And the legal drama Philadelphia with Tom Hanks. The film also starred Jason Robards, Mary Steenburgen, and Antonio Banderas. Hanks played attorney Andrew Beckett, a senior associate at the largest corporate law firm in Philadelphia. He conceals his homosexuality and his status as an AIDS patient from others in the office. He is eventually fired for paperwork missing for a case, but it was an excuse. He was actually fired as a result of his AIDS status and his sexuality. He hires Joe Miller, a personal injury attorney, played by Denzel, to represent him in a wrongful termination lawsuit against the firm. This was a gripping film that you need to watch. In 1995, Denzel starred in a submarine action film directed by Tony Scott, Crimson Tide. The cast included Gene Hackman, Viggo Mortensen, and James Gandolfini. The film focuses on a clash of wills between the seasoned commanding officer of a U.S. nuclear missile sub, Captain Ramsey, portrayed by Hackman, and his new executive officer, Ron Hunter, played by Washington. They have conflicting interpretations of an order to launch their missiles against a Russian base. The story parallels a real incident during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The two actors were excellent going against each other. This is another must-see if you haven't seen it. Denzel's next 2 movies were the science fiction action film Virtuosity with Russell Crowe, Kelly Lynch, and William Forsythe, and the neo-noir mystery thriller Devil in a Blue Dress with Tom Sizemore, Jennifer Beals, and Don Cheadle. In 1996, Denzel played Lieutenant Colonel Nathaniel Serling in the war drama film Courage Under Fire. The film co-starred Meg Ryan, Lou Diamond Phillips, Michael Moriarty, Matt Damon, and Scott Glenn. While serving in the Persian Gulf War, Serling accidentally destroys one of his own tanks during a confusing nighttime battle. The Army covers up the details and transfers Serling to a desk job. Serling is later assigned to determine if Captain Karen Walden, played by Meg Ryan, should be the first woman to receive posthumously the Medal of Honor. She was the commander of a medevac Huey helicopter sent to rescue the crew of a Black Hawk helicopter. When Walden encountered a T-54 enemy tank, her crew destroyed it by dropping a fuel bladder onto the tank and igniting it with a flare gun. However, her own helicopter was shot down soon after. The 2 crews were unable to join forces, and when the survivors were rescued the next day, Walden was reported dead. Serling investigates the incident and finds many inconsistencies in the testimonies of Walden's crew. What he finds out will surprise you. You'll have to watch the movie to know what happened. His next 6 films had appeal and were as follows: the Christmas comedy drama The Preacher's Wife with Whitney Houston, Courtney B. Vance, and Gregory Hines. The supernatural thriller Fallen with John Goodman, Donald Sutherland, and James Gandolfini. The sports drama film He Got Game with Mila Jovovich. The action thriller The Siege with Annette Bening and Bruce Willis. The Bone Collector with Angelina Jolie, Queen Latifah, and Michael Rooker. And the biographical sports drama The Hurricane with Liev Schreiber. In 2000, Denzel starred in another biographical sports film, Remember the Titans. The film was co-produced by Walt Disney Pictures and Jerry Bruckheimer Films. The story is loosely based on the true story of Coach Herman Boone, portrayed by Denzel. He attempted to integrate T.C. Williams High School football team in Alexandria, Virginia in 1971. The cast included a very young Hayden Panettiere, Kate Bosworth, and Ryan Gosling. Head coach Bill Youse is leading his white players in summer workouts. He is informed that Herman Boone, a black head coach originally hired to coach the city's black high school football team, has been assigned to his coaching staff instead. Then, in an attempt to calm rising racial tensions, the school district decides to name Boone the head coach. He refuses, believing it is unfair to Yost, a successful coach who is nominated to the Virginia High School Hall of Fame. He relents after seeing what it means to the black community. Yost initially plans to accept another head coaching position, but changes his mind when his players pledge to boycott the team. He accepts Boone's offer to serve as a defensive coordinator. Early on, the black and white players frequently clash in racially motivated conflicts, especially between captains Gary Bertier and Julius Campbell. Do I have your attention? Guess what? This is another movie you need to see to find out how it turns out. This was one of my favorite inspirational sports movies. The fact that I coached my sons in football until high school made this very special to me. The next film in Mr. Washington's resume was Jerry Bruckheimer's Training Day, in which he won the Oscar for Best Actor. I know, not the usual type of movie or character that the Academy acknowledges. It also starred Ethan Hawke, who received an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. It also featured Scott Glenn, Eva Mendes, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg. The story follows two LAPD narcotics officers over a 24-hour period in the gang-ridden neighborhoods of Westlake, Echo Park, and South Central LA. Denzel plays Detective Alonzo Harris, and Hawke is LAPD officer Jake Hoyt. Hoyt is up for promotion and is assigned to Harris for a one-day evaluation. Hoyt finds out that Harris is a dirty cop, but is blackmailed and cannot reveal the truth. The film was the first of many for director Antoine Fuqua and Denzel. In 2002, he starred in the title role in the thriller drama John Q. The cast was great and included Robert Duvall, James Woods, Anne Heck, Eddie Griffin, and Ray Liotta. The film tells the story of John Quincy Archibald, a father and husband whose son has been diagnosed with an enlarged heart. He finds out he is unable to receive a transplant because HMO insurance will not cover it. He holds hostages at the hospital to force him to perform the operation. You can sympathize with his plight. The flaws of the American healthcare system are brought to light in this film. I know every one of you have had issues with your medical insurance company's coverages, so this film will hit home. Over the next several years, Denzel did several films, including Antoine Fisher, a biographical drama movie. This was also his directing debut. The mystery thriller film At a Time with Eva Mendes and Dean Cain, Man on Fire, an action thriller with Dakota Fanning, Christopher Walken, Rachel Ticotin, and Mickey Rourke. A remake of the 1962 film The Manchurian Candidate, this movie also starred Meryl Streep, Liev Schreiber, and Jon Voight. The 2006 crime thriller Inside Man with Clive Owen, Jodie Foster, Christopher Plummer, and William Dafoe. Deja Vu, a science fiction action film from director Tony Scott and producer Jerry Bruckheimer. It also starred Val Kilmer. The Ridley Scott-produced American Gangster with Russell Crowe, Cuba Gooding Jr., Josh Brolin, and Armand Assante. And the historical drama The Great Debaters. He stars as debate coach Melvin B. Tolson. The movie co-starred Forrest Whitaker, Journey Smollett, and John Hurt. In 2009, Denzel starred in the 1974 remake of The Taking of Pelham 123. John Travolta, John Turturro, and James Gandolfini co-star. The film is about a train dispatcher who is pressed into the role of negotiator after a criminal hijacks a subway car of passengers. Mr. Washington played Walter Garber, the dispatcher, and Travolta is Dennis Ryder Ford, the leader of the hijackers. Ryder demands $10 million in cash to be paid in 60 minutes and warns that every minute that he waits past the deadline, he will kill a hostage. Garber is stuck talking to Ryder as he will not talk to police. This is yet another movie you need to see to appreciate. In 2010, he had two movies released. The post-apocalyptic neo-western action film, The Book of Eli, with Gary Oldman, Mila Kunis, and Jennifer Beals, and the disaster action thriller Unstoppable. Chris Pine and Rosario Dawson co-star. It tells the story of a runaway freight train and the two men who attempt to stop it. It was based on the real-life incident. It was the last film directed by Tony Scott before his death. He then co-starred with Ryan Reynolds in Safe House, which we discussed in my previous video. In 2012, the Robert Zemeckis directed film Flight was released. Denzel stars as William Whip Whitaker Sr., an alcoholic airline pilot who miraculously crash lands his plane after a mechanical failure, saving nearly everyone on board. Although hailed a hero, an investigation soon begins to cast the captain in a different light. His addiction to alcohol and drugs is brought into question. The movie also stars John Goodman and Don Cheadle. Mr. Washington was nominated for another Academy Award for Best Actor for this film. He next starred with Mark Wahlberg in the buddy cop action comedy Two Guns. Bobby Trench and Stig Stigman are two criminals working together. Neither one knows that they are undercover. Bobby is a DEA special agent, and Stig is a Navy SEAL with the U.S. Navy Office of Naval Intelligence. Both are infiltrating the drug cartel in Mexico. Through all of the twists and turns of this film, you don't know who to trust, including the CIA and Naval Intelligence. Overall, the two actors make it a fun movie to watch. In 2014, Denzel teamed up again with director Antoine Fuqua to bring us the first of a series of 3 films. The Equalizer brought us Robert McCall, a former U.S. Marine and Defense Intelligence Agency officer. His co-stars included David Harbour, Chloe Grace Moretz, and Bill Pullman. McCall now lives a quiet life in Boston, where he works at a hardware store. Unable to sleep, he often spends late nights reading at an all-night diner. Over time, he becomes friends with Terry, a teenager sex trafficked by the Russian mafia. Terry feels comfortable with Robert and reveals her real name is Alina. Alina is badly beaten by her pimp and ends up in intensive care. McCall tracks down his pimp at the restaurant that he owns and goes there to buy Alina's freedom and is bluntly refused. He chooses to reluctantly return to action to protect Alina. His ability to see what will happen before it does allows him to determine how he will defeat his enemies. It is amazing to see him in action. He kills all the men in the office and walks out untouched. The head of the Russian mafia learns of the attack and sends his enforcer to investigate what happened. Robert decides to continue exacting vigilante justice on criminals he encounters. You have to see how he handles each situation that he is faced with. The final battle in the hardware store between McCall and the Russian enforcer is incredible. This is definitely a must-watch film, especially if you continue through the franchise. Denzel is an inspiration to many of us old guys, proving that you can do anything even though you get older. In a change of pace, Denzel joined his favorite director in the Western action film, The Magnificent Seven. He played U.S. Marshal Sam Chisholm. He is the leader of the Seven. He is joined by Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke, and Vincent D'Onofrio. It's 1879, and gold mining tycoon Bartholomew Bogue and his hired guns seize control of the frontier town Rose Creek. He forced the residents to work as cheap labor in his mine. Bogue torched the church and murdered several townsfolk in public view, including Matthew Cullen. Matthew's widow leaves town in search of bounty hunters to help liberate the town. Chisholm is the first recruit. From there, he finds the rest of the Seven. These include gambler and trick shooter Joshua Faraday, a Mexican outlaw seeking a pardon Vasquez, former Confederate sharpshooter Goodnight Robichaud, and his friend, a knife-wielding assassin Billy Rocks, legendary mountain man Jack Home, and a Comanche warrior named Red Harvest. The Seven enter Rose Creek and eliminate 22 Blackstone detectives guarding the town. Chisholm apprehends the corrupt sheriff and sends him to challenge Bogue. The action in this movie is outstanding, and as you can guess, you gotta see this one too. Denzel has 2 more movies, the period drama Fences with Viola Davis, and Roman J. Israel Esquire, a legal drama co-starring Colin Farrell. In 2018, Robert McCall is back in the second chapter of the franchise, The Equalizer 2. Denzel returns with the addition of Pedro Pascal to the cast. Antoine Fuqua is back to direct the film, of course. McCall is still helping the less fortunate with their large problems. He travels to Istanbul to retrieve the 9-year-old daughter of a bookstore owner. He is able to demonstrate his unique abilities to accomplish this. He agrees to help an elderly Holocaust victim search for a painting of his long-lost sister. When one of his friends is murdered, he sets out on a path of revenge to find her killer. He meets up with his former partner, Dave York, only to find out he is a mercenary and responsible for the murder. McCall's former team has joined York as mercenaries. Robert promises to kill all of the team for killing his friend. As you would expect, the action is great. Denzel has a way of making his character relatable. And yes, another must-see. he had 4 more films. He was a producer for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom with Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman in his final role before his untimely death. The psychological crime thriller The Little Things with Rami Malek and Jared Leto. The Tragedy of Macbeth, a historical thriller movie. And then he was the director and producer for the romantic drama A Journey for Jordan, starring Michael B. Jordan. That brings us to the 3rd and final installment of the Equalizer trilogy, The Equalizer 3. Denzel was reunited with Dakota Fanning and director Antoine Fuqua for the film. Bacall discovers that his new friends in a small town in South Italy are being intimidated by members of the Camorra, a mafia-type criminal organization. The beginning of the movie sets the stage for the rest of the movie. 9 seconds. If you have seen the movie, you already know what that means. If you haven't, you'll have to watch it. As you might expect, Robert will protect his friends from the Camorra no matter what it takes. As you know, he has the ability to take on even the toughest of bad guys with his signature methods. That brings us to this year. Mr. Washington is set to start filming for the Ridley Scott-directed Gladiator 2. It is a sequel to Russell Crowe's 2000 film Gladiator. Pedro Pascal reunites with Denzel in this film. There is no information on the story for this movie, so we will have to wait to find out what it is about. The 69-year-old actor shows no signs of stopping. I, for one, appreciate his drive and admire his talent. It has come to the time for you to decide. Is Denzel Washington man, myth, or legend? Leave your choice in the comments. Look for the next chapter coming soon. Until next time, see you soon, and let's go to the movies.